Welcome back. Winning Plays podcast. Rich Levine, Brian Robb. B-Rob, this is Tuesday afternoon. We're having this conversation. A week from tonight, first game of the NBA season. A week from tomorrow, the first game of the Celtic season.
You mentioned the Simmons situation in terms of where they and how that goes with the Philly being still slotted in third, which is incredibly surprising to me, just based
Crazy.
on how this has happened. But first, can we just talk about this Simmons situation a little more? I know we've talked about
Let's
this
do
plenty,
it.
but so he 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 holds out for the first 2 or 3 weeks of camp, isn't talking to teammates, pretty much giving everyone the cold shoulder, it seems like. And then what do you think happens here beyond the fact that being like, oh, those checks are just not clearing right now? And guess what? Like, Philly has you under contract for 4 more years. So they are not like, they have no incentive to sell low right now or sell for like nothing even close to what they think you're worth. So I don't know if I expected him to like crack this easily, or is this a situation where he's going to show up unannounced, which apparently happened? Like, can you imagine? Like, who was the usher at the Sixers arena
Like,
last night? Be
Sir Ben Simmons is here.
like,
Yeah.
can you give
Yeah,
us
no.
you want them? But is this him? Is he just showing up to get paid, or do you think that he's showing up now to actually make a quote unquote like concerted effort and to hope to get him out of there sooner than later?
I this does not feel like a concerted effort to play. I think he again, and I wonder too, like how much of what has happened has been Ben Simmons saying, "Okay, this is what I need. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to do," or Rich Paul saying, "Ben, just sit back and listen to me. Do whatever I'm saying right now. I'm in charge of you. I know what's best." And as we've seen from time to time, it doesn't always work out best for for players not named LeBron. Yeah, he gets some good contracts, but like talk to Nerlens Noel, talk to some other guys. Maybe it does, Rich Paul's power games in that sense don't always work out in the best possible way for the players. And maybe it got to the point where Ben Simmons is okay, like because what if he did he get the million? Did he reach $1 million
Yeah,
lost money?
I think he missed. I think I saw a headline saying he was out at least $1 million based on just not showing up to camp and those preseason games. Like that was, the a million because he's getting. I mean, he's getting over 30 for the year, but every game. I think preseason games count in terms of the slice of the pie for the ultimate prize there.
Yeah, so I think at the very least he's going to want to not miss those checks anymore. And then we'll see. I have a hard time seeing him ever playing, and he's kind of said that still, and that's been the vibe out there, that he doesn't really intend to play for Philly again.
Right. And so will that? But are they gonna? Is he gonna get paid though if he's there and not question? Like how are they gonna do
Yeah,
that if
well,
they're like, hey Ben, you can't just show up here and like refuse to go in the game. That's insubordination. We're still not paying you for that.
yeah, right, and that's a slippery slope, right? Because you can pull a muscle in the shower, right? You can slip in the shower
Right.
and fall. You can have a number of reasons that all of a sudden, yeah, I probably shouldn't play right now, coach. And we'll see where that goes. But like, I don't know. Is there anything for you in a Kyrie for Simmons deal?
Beyond some of the best headlines ever.
Because
I mean, Philly, I
Philadelphia
would
doesn't have that law in place, so Kyrie could hypothetically
no.
just go and play there.
You connect the dots there, and I mean, it does solve some problems for both sides. Like, what side do you think would have more reason to say no? Is the way I put it. I think it's Philly because yeah, if you're trading Simmons, you're Kyrie's probably easily the best player you get for him. But do you want the wild card that is Kyrie Irving coming in, and this is like your last best chance to contend with Embiid? Is like you're going to put your faith in Kyrie Irving and ignore what has happened to the last 3 teams he has played for? No, I think if things get super super desperate for both sides down the line, like if we're talking midway through the season, nothing has moved, then maybe I think about it if I'm Philly. But before that, I'm not with Kyrie not even locked in beyond this season to a contract in the NBA period. He has a player option. Then I'm very very scared of going there. I'm looking for the poo poo platter from elsewhere rather than Kyrie Irving.
I would certainly fear the Nets a lot more. I would take those even odds, I think, if they had Simmons in there, with Harden and KD.
Oh yeah, that'd be a dream for them. to have Simmons because he doesn't have to do anything beyond all the little things he does do on that team. Like he's not gonna have to. You got a bunch of guys that can create their own shot, and they're not gonna be dishing out to you for threes. Like they can just do it themselves. So
Yeah, but I think it is a good move by the Nets. I think I would feel even I mean those odds would be almost be more ridiculous to me if they didn't make this decision with Kyrie. Like if they were going in and saying, "Yeah, we're gonna let you be Kyrie. We're gonna tiptoe around you, walk on eggshells around you and say, "Yeah, whenever you can, Kyrie, just join us on the road, and maybe we'll figure out ways to." No, I think it's a smart move by Nets management to say no. Either you're here or you're not. Because that's a very the middle ground with Kyrie is very scary, and I think it doesn't matter how much talent you have on your roster, he can take you down quick if you let him. So I think for the Nets, it was certainly a smart move to do what they did today.
and it's probably the Nets learning from experience from just like looking at what happened with Kyrie here in Boston and even in Cleveland in terms of like, teams understandably catering to the guy, given what he meant to those franchises at the time. And then, it backfiring to a degree on both. And now they even like what within the first few months of him signing in Brooklyn, with Durant out for the year a couple years ago, like the whispers were already there about just him, you know, stirring up, crap or just like not doing just kind of crazy things that didn't fall in line with what the team needed out of him. And so now you reach a point where you have Harden here to protect against this to a degree. I think that's part of the reason they've probably went all in for him to say, hey, at least we have this.
We'll have two, no
We
matter
have
what.
two
Yeah.
as opposed to three. But I don't know. Where do you think Durant and Harden are on this? Are they going to give Brooklyn the green light to trade him if this drags on?
At
More
some
Durant
point,
than Harden, obviously.
right, because they came together and they're reportedly really good friends. Like I guess it really comes down to KD's competitiveness at some point, right? Like at some point, you would think that maybe they'd still be able to be friends, but he'd just say like, "Hey, man, I for the last, let's say, I don't know how many years does KD have left at the top of his game? Like maybe 3, maybe 4." Like, there gets to a point where you wouldn't think he wants to sacrifice this for a friendship with a guy that he knows has no problem just burning everything down, and if anything, gets a kick out of the chaos. So you would think at some point maybe he would say if there it could be a deal in place for Brooklyn and they could go to KD and say, listen, I mean, let's just say like pie in the sky. We're not saying this will necessarily happen, but hey, we can get Ben Simmons. It means getting rid of Kyrie Irving. I would think that KD is down with that, but I
I don't
obviously
think
don't
that
know.
I don't think that deal's going to be out there though. I
No,
don't
but I'm
think.
just saying if you could
But
go to him
but yeah,
already
if
and
you go
say,
to him
"Hey,
with
here's what we
alternatives.
can do if you give us the green light to part with Kyrie." And again, at a certain point, uh, you would think he might be down to do that. We'll see.
So where do you think the Sixers should be in these power rankings here for these odds in terms of knowing that even say Simmons even plays with them, it's like, can you even like what are the odds of an actual reconciliation here? Like 3, 4%
3,
between him
4,
and the six?
yeah, I mean, that seems fair, but then again, like, we've talked about before, let's say it does, right? Let's say, like, in those the slimmest of slim odds, they do work it out. Ben Simmons returns to the court for Philadelphia, and you get to the playoffs, and he still won't shoot.
Yeah.
You're right where
Right.
you were last year, so that's where it's like, if he's gonna be the same guy, and he's like and he comes back on his terms, right? He doesn't have to change, he could just hold out and pout and go through all this, and you just let him back and allow him to go be the same Ben Simmons that you saw last season, like, they should be even lower, right? They're just in a tough spot. Like for me, I think I would, like I said, so the Nets and Bucks are 1-2, Philly, Miami 3-4, Hawks and Celtics 5-6. I would flop Hawks, Celtics, and Philly, Miami.
All right. So you put them down that 5, 6 range. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
with you on
I
that.
think I think I put them at 6, and then Chicago is the next closest. They're 20-1 at 7. Um, who knows? That's going to be a really interesting situation to watch. I mean, I don't think anyone would be surprised if they could be, sort of like what the Heat and Pacers have been in some past regular seasons in the Eastern Conference, just like a really tough regular season team that maybe sneaks into like a 4 or 5 seed. Just and then when it gets to the playoffs, maybe they don't quite have enough. But I think they're a really solid regular season team. And I also think, by the way, that could be the Celtics this year too. They might be a team just better suited for the regular season. Maybe when it gets to the playoffs, then you wonder, okay, can they handle Miami? Can they handle Philly? Can they handle Milwaukee? But like on the day to day, if they are as fired up, and again, if they can stay healthy, and with Ime's just the new regime in town, like that could power them for a really solid regular season.
Yeah, I'm you're dead right on that. And going back to the Bulls for a second, um, who've been having a really good preseason, which who the hell knows what that means, but like they,
Can I tell you?
yeah,
That means nothing.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, so that 2-0 record for the Celtics isn't like those
No,
clutch wins are
for
not
the
needed, right?
Celtics,
Okay,
it
so this is the
matters.
Bulls. This is just the Bulls.
Oh,
It's irrelevant.
yeah, but only when the Celtics win. If they
Correct.
lose, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yes.
Yeah.
But did you see who's starting for the Bulls though? Right now?
Lonzo Ball,
Yes.
Zach
Uh,
Levine,
yes. Who's starting at shooting guard though?
Nikola Vucevic.
Yep.
Uh, I'm missing two others. The shooting
DeMar
guard,
DeRozan.
DeMar DeRozan,
And then there's
and
one name that you are very familiar with from Boston, who's also starting.
oh, dude, yeah, they Javante.
Javante Green has put up some really nice numbers in Chicago as a fifth man. And who knows if he'll actually, I mean, he started in the preseason last year for the Celtics, and then that lineup kind of disappeared as the season went on. But that's another one. When you look again, when you look back at it, that would have been a great 15th guy to have here. And I'm not going to complain about
Great
15th
10th
guy.
guy, great
The great
10th
10th guy to
guy.
have. And they kept you don't dump Carson Edwards to keep Jason Tatum's like buddy who's giving you something. Like I
Did
know
we
it's
ever get? Was there ever an explanation?
not I mean, the explanation was they were getting under the tax. And I think what happened here was it was so close to the buzzer at the trade deadline is that the Bulls just held the Celtics front office over a barrel and said to like take the salary that was necessary to keep them under the tax. So that was Tice, that was Javante Green, and they had to send money, a couple $1,000,000 of both of those guys to make it work. And so the Bulls were probably like, "Well, we'll give you Carson Edwards." We're like, "No," or if we take Carson Edwards, you got to give us like $6 million or something outrageous. Like, all right, fine, Javante Green. And
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know for sure that's how it happened, but just the timing wise, that deal came like after the buzzer. So I think it was a situation where everything else that they may have been doing fell apart, which can happen. But now you look at a year later and Carson's, you know, looking hopefully he's looking at deals overseas right now. He got dumped by Memphis before the preseason even started. And now Green is signed for cheap in Chicago and actually playing meaningful minutes there. So again, it's just a preseason. We don't know. The Celtics have plenty of wing help there, and you know, Neesmith, Langford. We'll get to all these guys in a little bit that are looking good, but that was a guy in terms of roles and fit that probably should have just held on to. No reason to just give him away for nothing.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a few times. Just how, for much, I would say, like for the from the Nets Celtics trade, right? They got all those draft picks, and up until like maybe the Kyrie trade, the Celtics made a lot of smart moves and they got lucky. And then more recently, they've made some bad moves and got unlucky on top of that. And Javante Green, turning into a viable, you know, part of that Chicago Bulls team would be another time where like not only did it make sense to keep Jason Tatum's good buddy around, but for him to then turn like realize his potential, because he certainly showed some real potential here. It wasn't like
Yeah,
they were getting rid of a guy that was never playing, like it was Taco or Carson. Like again, like did he start a few games? I know he was
he
like
started.
he
He
was
definitely did.
he was certainly a part of the rotation and made an impact when he was out there. So for him to do that and become like, and he's a perfect, let's say he's a perfect fifth starter. That's a lot, but like he is a guy that like if he is your fifth part starter, if he gets a chance to play with four guys who are much better than he is, he's going to look pretty good and can do a lot of those little things, especially defensively. So yeah, that would be a bummer to see him. It would be nice for Javante to see him thrive. I mean, he was a guy that remember that was just like a random summer league pickup, and he had a couple great dunks in the summer league, and you figured that was going to be the last you ever saw of him. But like the guy really carved out a job, a career in the NBA, and it's great to see. It would be much better to see it happen on the Celtics, but But yeah, and you wonder like like Danny Ainge and Zarin, like he's a good kid, so you're obviously rooting for him. But I wonder if like part of them is like, like, don't get too good, you
Oh,
know?
sure. I'm
Don't
sure anytime
don't
you make
stick
a
it to
player
us
play
too
like that,
badly.
right? And luckily, I mean, there really haven't been many guys like that over the years that I mean, some guys have, turned into something after leaving Boston, but no one who's like blossomed like super well, I feel like was given away.
Joe
Um,
Johnson, have to
yeah,
go
I mean
back
Joe
to.
Johnson, yeah, you go way, way back, but that's yeah, luckily not that was the pre-Ainge era. So but yeah, just something to keep an eye on. Again, Javonte Green has great preseasons no matter what. So it could just turn into nothing when the season starts. But that's a former subject to keep an eye on as we go forward.
And the game's gonna begin next week. Like I said, B-Rob. Um, that's hard. It's really, I guess, it feels a little hard to believe, but no, no, no. We're getting in the flow. Like we've seen them. We've seen the Celtics at the Garden twice now. The undefeated Boston Celtics, undefeated era. Ime
Did you
Udoka, President Brad Stevens.
I'll tell you who's excited about these Celtics. The people in the crowd at these preseason games. Holy crap. This
That's
was
awesome.
this was like borderline like would be electric crowds for a regular season game like anywhere else. For in the third or fourth quarter of these games when, you know, Jabari Parker and Hernan Gomez are trying to hold off valiant comebacks against the Raptors. It's nuts. And I don't know if it's just people being excited about this team, or I think people being excited to be back in the building because in Boston for at least Celtics and Bruins games last year, they were really not allowed into the playoffs essentially at a full capacity. So
And it's
whatever
full.
it is,
It's full capacity
it's
now.
full capacity now. And the Saturday night game at the Garden was I'd say probably 80-90% full for a preseason game. So
Wow.
it's a situation where we look at last year and the struggles of last year. I do wonder if you kind of underrate from a Celtics perspective how much just having no crowd at those home games hurt them because the juice there it is like you just notice it as as a member of the media, but I'm sure for the players, like the guys that are, Tim's talked about how much, he loves just playing in front of a crowd, period. So I wonder how much of that will translate into how they look at least at home this year.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Where do they have the media sitting? Are you back in your in the corner there,
Yep,
or
same spot in the wedge. It's pretty much the same. Like there's no like we're wearing masks. That's the precaution for us. But we're all still next to each other. So there's no other really
is
differences
it?
from pre-COVID.
Is there still media dining? Is they giving food,
Yep,
or they?
media dining. That's all there. Media room, media dining. That's the only place you can take off your mask. Obviously, is when you're sitting at the table and eating. And I will say that they won't let anyone down there that's unvaccinated. Like you have to be in the media, like in the in person part of the stuff. You have to, so you feel a little bit better out of that. But yeah, it's kind of the same old story down there, except for everyone's wearing a mask, obviously.
Is Josh Richardson allowed in?
I've not seen Josh in the area yet.
No.
We'll see if he. I imagine that he's going to be stuck in his hotel room a lot on the road.
Yeah,
They're down in Florida right now. It's he
doing
was
doing
he
his research in the hotel room.
He was asked about a team dinner, and he was kinda like, because they talked about it last week, and someone asked, "Oh, what'd you think of the team dinner?" He's like, "Oh, I actually wasn't able to make it." And it was like, "Okay, well, that's you weren't able to make it, unfortunately, because you weren't allowed to make it."
Right.
But
So by the way, we're given how it's played out with Jalen and that they do see it does seem that he's going to be back. We can assume that he's vaccinated.
yes, he's 100% vaccinated because if you're coming back within 10 days, you're vaccinated. It was the same thing Ime Udoka did when he quarantined for 10 days. So I think that and like 2 negative tests, you're back. So Jalen
Okay.
never addressed it head on, but just the way he's coming back from this pretty much, and the Celtics wouldn't confirm it on the record, but um, I think it's pretty clear cut that this timetable means he's vaccinated. And I mean, good news for them. No one else on the team had periods have gone, and we're 5-6 days out now from when Jalen found out, and so that's again hopefully another positive sign in terms of those who are being vaccinated. Making sure this doesn't spread when it does break through.
All right. Cool. So what do you think? What do you want to? Because I figure we'll get one more episode in the beginning of next week for sure, right? Wednesday night is the game.
Yeah, got Wednesday, Friday game, Orlando, Miami. But I don't know. There's going to be so Jalen obviously is going to be out for these games coming up, which means some extended looks at the wings. Romeo Langford got the start on Saturday night and looked pretty good. Was knocking down threes. This was after he only played the fourth quarter in game one. So I mean, between him and Neesmith and Josh Richardson, it's going to be some really interesting decisions for Emi Udoka out of the gate in terms of whether he wants to lean towards the young developing guys or give a more proven guy like Richardson some experience out of the gate. I know, is it fair to say you're not Team Richardson in terms of the playing time with those guys, or is it more Schroeder
Yeah, no,
that
I
you're,
would.
you know?
I just don't know how necessarily counted on he can be given the circumstances. I would, and especially with what you potentially can gain with the youngsters and Neesmith and Langford. Um, in terms of just big picture. I would love to see those two guys get the first chance. I mean, if Romeo is hitting three pointers, it's a wholly totally different conversation than what we've been having since the day he was drafted. I mean, first of all, to have him actually healthy enough to play consistently is a
Well,
big
that's
is a
step
big
one right
difference.
there.
But like if he is on the court and actually hitting three pointers, like with what he can do defensively, I mean, that's a game changer, and I already believe in Neesmith's ability to score the ball, to be a consistent shooter. So yeah, like I would love to, for that depth to go. In my mind, Neesmith, Romeo, Richardson.
Do you think that would you like to see them go like super small off the bench and play one of those guys at like the four and just play three or four guards at a time with Al or Rob or something like that, and just have that be a look to make sure all those guys get to play? Or would you rather see, Grant Williams out there at the four
Yeah.
or,
So
Hernan Gomez?
how many minutes per game will there be zero J's on the floor? Zero.
You would hope zero, to be
Yeah.
honest. If I think and Udoka's talked about just wanting to staggering those guys to play to their strengths. So if you look at, I mean, you can pretty easily maneuver that if Brad liked to win with the early rest for Tatum in these games, but maybe, I mean, we haven't really seen what his full rotations plan are yet, but I would think
Was
you just
that pre-COVID
bounce it
too?
out.
Did he do that?
He did that a lot for the last 2 years. So the pre and
Okay.
post COVID, just like get him out and then so he can come back in the second quarter and carry the lackluster second unit, which worked 2 years ago, did not work last year after the first 20 games or so when things went south there. So, I mean, this year they have all this, potential experience and offensive potential coming off your bench. I kind of want to see them all out there together, especially if you can, you have someone down. I mean, I guess I'll put it this way. I'd rather see Langford and Neesmith getting more time than like you going big with like Grant Williams and Cantor and one of those guys getting squeezed
Yes.
out.
Yeah, I'm sort of, and I know Grant's had a solid preseason. I know he's lost some weight. I don't know. So here's a question. That's the thing I hear a lot of people talking about when they talk about the positives or why this year might be different for Grant Williams. So the fact that he did lose that weight, in what ways is that going to benefit him? That he can maybe guard some smaller guys? I think because I thought the idea was that he could maybe guard up a little bit
Right. And I think honestly what
to guard
happened
Kevin Durant. Is that what he's trying to do?
yeah, if he gets on stilts, maybe. I mean, he had I think one of the highest per 36 foul rates in the NBA last season, period. And so that's the problem. So that wasn't an issue as much in year one. It got really bad last year in terms of like they were in the penalty, 2 minutes into whenever he was in the game. And so now if maybe I guess the thing is he can move better, stick on switches more. They're doing a ton of switching, obviously defensively now.
Sure.
And so that if he can do that, because none of the other bigs you really trust to do that yet. Like Al used to be able to do that, but not so much now. I mean, he can hold his own, but he's gonna get blown by cards. Rob and Cantor, we know where they stand on that front. So
Rob's
Grant's
getting better. He's still not there, but he did look a little bit better against
he's
Toronto, I thought, and very short glimpses, uh, but not enough to to really think that it's going to be a reality yet. But he showed more than I'd seen.
I
I'll say.
agree. Like, I mean, because he's always gonna get a couple of those jump shots every game. But then the problem is what happens in the three other plays in between those jump shots where, you know, he doesn't get out there fast enough or just gets blown by. But you're right. I think if you can make strides there and just really hone in on him things defensively, then that could be big. But it does seem like and Al and the other subplot here is like, the double big lineup where Al and Rob going to start together to begin the year. We saw that Saturday night. Al Horford was asked point blank, "Do you want to start?" And he was like, "I'm not gonna lie, yes." And so, do is that going to happen, or are you catering to Al Horford's feelings here, or is Al Horford only going to be here for 1 year anyway? So, like, sorry, Al, you're coming off the bench if because works just as well that way if we can start, a random guy, maybe Neesmith or whoever as our fifth man or Langford.
Yeah, it's the way Ime has been talking, it kind of seems like Al's going to get the start the year, right?
I think
I
so.
don't know. That just it just seems that they've been messing with it obviously in the preseason a little bit, but like uh everything seems to be pointing, and especially for Al to say that he wants to start. And I don't think they would make any decision like that just to keep Al happy. That would be crazy if it's not what's best for the team. Um, but it's fun. I'm just looking. Dennis Schroeder, 80 to 1, sixth man of the year.
Wow, too
That's
much
not bad.
competition. Too much competition off the bench. You're right. That's pretty good value there for a guy who won the award 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you
but yeah,
think the odds are on Jason Tatum winning the scoring title?
say 40 to 1,
12 to 1.
12 to 1.
That's exciting, huh?
All right. I mean,
He's
there's
eighth. That's eighth overall.
well, you don't have to
Um,
fight Kemba for shots anymore. Like, you're gonna get that volume's got to go somewhere, and we'll see if Marcus Smart at point guard, if he keeps that shot total down to 8 or 9 per game, then all those attempts are probably going to Tatum.
right, and
So
you look. So what did he finish at last year? Was it 26?
yeah, I think 26. That sounds
And
right.
so let's say he averaged 26 points a game. I'm going to have it up in 1 second here. Uh, 26.4. And maybe is it crazy to assume or to at least hope that he will get four more foul shots a game?
I think 4
Yeah, like that.
is ambitious. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, if
But that's how
he,
close he is to 30 points a game.
you're right. If you just even if you add two there, and then you add 2 or 3
Another
attempts per
bucket
game,
anywhere. Yeah.
yeah, like you can get there pretty easily if he's. I think the worry of that for me, if you're betting on something like that, is our team just going to take him away? Are they going to just throw doubles at him everywhere, and he's going to make the right play, especially with so many questionable shooters around him on this team? And that where the question is, if Neesmith, if Langford, if all these guys can start hitting these open threes consistently, and then that's when defenses have to think twice about making that kind of a decision.
Yeah, I think we talked about it that, and when we had the first conversation, Romeo was definitely not on the list of potential 3-point threats that the Celtics had. But if you can get three of four, Neesmith, Romeo, because I think Richardson was
Oh
in there too.
yeah,
Let's say five,
well,
three
and
three
you
of
can
these
put
five.
don't forget about Pritchard too. Like Pritchard
Oh yeah,
you can just replace one of those guys. Right.
Pritchard and Al. If Pritchard and Al can hit somewhere in the high 30s, if they can approach 40%. And Neesmith and Langford can be in the high 30s. Let's say for Langford, let's even say mid 30s. Like that could be enough.
Yep. And that's you just need to find like one of those guys just need to have a year, or whether it's Schroeder, Neesmith, Langford, Richardson. If one of those guys, like you said, gets into that upper 30 range on solid volume, so like you said, they can be in that closeout lineup with Jalen Horford and we'll say Pritchard for offense. He's not gonna be out there for defense, obviously, but you could get him in those spots late. Then that's a lineup that's really tough to defend and tough to leave anyone at the perimeter and could give Tatum those opportunities.
And Schroeder only has one season where he took at least 5 3-pointers a game. That was his second season in OKC and shot 38%, 38.5. So I
So
mean
I'm
that and
sure,
that's it really is an aberration when you look at the rest of his seasons. But like
right?
that 1 year, for 65 games, playing 30 minutes a night, averaging 18.9 a night, like he did it. And by the
And
way, he's a mid 80s foul shooter as well. Dennis
yeah,
Schroeder.
no,
For me, that's
that's
always
your
inspiring.
that's exactly like that's a really good point because that's the best chance for someone else on this team to get to the line after Tatum and Brown is him because he can get the separation. He doesn't have the size down there, but he can get to the rim and create some contact. Like you said, he can finish it. And given that his role here, he'll be off the ball a lot, like he was in OKC. I feel like that. If you'll see if that catch and shoot kind of translates with the higher volume that he may or may not be getting here.
Yeah, he got to the line even last year in the Lakers, like playing with that roster. He got to the line four times a game, which would have been pretty easily the third best on the Celtics, and pretty close to Jalen. At Jalen was 4.3, and Schroeder was 4.0. Um,
It's
so yeah,
But yeah, we'll see if we see him this preseason. He was out with a knee injury in game two, but he supposedly made the trip down to Florida. So we'll see if he gets at least into one of these last two games before this group gets ready for the New York Knicks, Madison Square Garden, a week from Wednesday.
are you
Actually,
going?
probably gonna be. I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll be there
all
in
right,
person. Matt's live. We'll have two. Both of us will be in the house. We're making the train trip down, and
together.
it'll be, t- yeah, we'll
Uh,
be. I'll tell you what, train prices are have dropped incredibly during the pandemic. No one's
no
no
kidding.
one's doing business travel anymore, it seems like, or that's my guess. And so, really easy to get a train ticket down there if you're thinking about getting in the building, but you do have to be vaccinated to get into MSG. So,
How long would it take
if
to
you're
take a train from Los Angeles to MSG? Do you think to Penn Station?
oh my,
I better
I
leave
gotta
now.
think,
We got a
yeah,
week,
you got a week. I think you can do it in a week. You should leave by Friday,
and I'm going to do it from
but
hopping trains. I'm not going to actually book a ticket. I'm just going to ride in freights. I
I
think that's
like
the way
that.
to do it these days.
That'll be an excellent follow-up for next week's pod. Rich's travels from the as a stowaway. But in the meantime, follow us at Winning Plays Pod on Twitter. Follow Rich at Rich_Levine. I'm at Brian T. Robb. Give us a rate, review, subscribe to the Winning Plays Pod. Spread the word. We're going to be doing plenty of these as the season goes on, as we get ready for the opener, and what should be a pretty interesting race in the Eastern Conference as the Kyrie and Ben Simmons subplots continue. So stay tuned.